Welcome to today's Social System Mapping Deep Dive session for June 20th, 2022. Your hosts today are me, Christine Capper, co-founder of sumApp and Greater Than the Sum, and Kara Martner, who's our producer, tech support, all-around partner in crime for me. And so for those of you who are new, what this is basically a vision about a possibility. Excuse my frog in my throat. So those of us who do this work think that social system mapping can help change networks and groups that are trying to change systems to become self-organizing more quickly and be more effective in their work. And so this is about that vision, and it's about leaning into that possibility and figuring out how to make that not just a possibility, but a truth. It's a learning opportunity for anybody who's interested in learning about social systems mapping, as well as the theory that informs our mapping practice, that is the theory that helps us believe that this vision really is possible, and that informs our sense making with our mapping as well. It's also an opportunity, a learning opportunity for us who are part of the community to hear from practitioners who aren't social system mappers, because since it's about social change and systemic change, we know that we have, one piece of the puzzle that we're focused on, but it really requires all these other pieces. And so the people who are new to our community or in the periphery of our community often have a whole lot of insight to share with us because they have practice experience in those adjacent puzzle pieces. So it's a two-way learning opportunity. It's a community of practice, so there are a number of us who are, as I said, learning how to, leaning into this possibility, learning how to do this, learning how to do it better. It's also a community of field building, developing the methodologies, the communications, the overall field of social system mapping is being developed by us, by those of you who you're seeing here, those of you who show up, and a lot of other people who aren't here today. And so social system mapping is core to this community of practice, but not everyone is a mapper. Like I said, there are people on the periphery, the people in adjacent practices that help inform us a whole lot. And so you're invited to give your insight and to be part of this, regardless of if you're an active mapper or not. Okay, I just had to stop and check out the chat. Feel free to just continue to put stuff in the chat as we go along. I'll just say that if I suggest something, I don't think we're going to do breakouts today, but whatever I suggest, just for future reference and as just part of our culture, it's just a suggestion or an invitation. It's never a firm requirement or expectation. And so if you don't want to participate in some way, just don't. And if we ever do breakouts, Kara is perfectly great at just making a private breakout room for you to go hang out in and do your thing, and then come back into the main room when we're done. So, or just hang out with me and Kara and chat. Okay, so for today's agenda, this is going to be a fairly loose agenda. We'll do welcome in introductions in a moment, and then we're just going to do some navigation training. We'll talk about how we can help other people learn how to navigate and be comfortable in their maps. And then for those of you who are new, we always have a formal hour. The session is designed to last an hour. And then at the top of the hour, we have a little goodbye ritual and send you on your way with love and appreciation. And then I'll stick on the online, and whoever else wants to can stay. If you have just more questions that you want to explore, if there's just some whatever, I just stick around for an extra half an hour to be available to go where you want to go. So we'll do that today as well, if anybody sticks around, because it's a small group. So let's go ahead and in the chat, I'd like you to share with us your name, pronoun, if you want, location. Again, it's all voluntary. Invitation. We'd love to see where everybody is, and couple more things in a minute. So Dan's in Brazil. Is it really hot and humid in Brazil? No.
No, it's winter here.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Sometimes I sort of like get lost in the seasons, and I'm very aware of our season at the moment.
Where
Okay.
I live, it never gets too hot and never gets too cold. It's very
No?
stable here all year round. Yeah, it's lovely.
Interesting. So Yannick is in Amsterdam. It's summer there, right?
Yeah, it's lovely here, actually.
Nice. Okay. And we have Molly in Ohio, and we have Mary Roscoe in San Francisco, and Amy in Memphis. Welcome to everyone. Okay, let's also, I'm going to stop sharing actually. Have you put in, what's one wicked problem that you're trying to address with a network approach?
Help humanity become in harmony with nature.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a primary one. But go ahead and put in the chat. You can put your a wicked problem that you're trying to address with a network approach. If you feel like doing so, we'd love to see what you're working on. Yeah. When I do this, I get to see, I'm always grateful at all the work that everybody is doing in our network, that they're on the ground efforts to help do the systems change that we need. So very much appreciate the ending the root causes of systemic racism and humans being in alignment with nature are huge ones, important. So thank you for that, for all your work. Okay, and then this one is about today's session. How comfortable are you in navigating a social system map? And let's have you say, if you have experience with a social system map at all, some experience, a lot of experience, no experience, and how comfortable you are, however you want to define it. Thank you for your work with the creation of the Free University Aurora. Also important. We're not going to change systems if we aren't educated and don't understand how things work. Okay, are people contemplating their comfort level with social system mapping, putting it in?
I'm not sure how to answer the question, to be very honest, because I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Well, that's perfectly acceptable. That makes sense. And we will hopefully what we do today will help with getting with you understanding what it means, and you may even learn some navigation tips, which you'll find helpful. You'll also have access to our social system map, our community of practice social system map. And if any of you are not on it, and some of you I know aren't on it, Kara will put in the chat a link to opt into our social system map. And that is a great opportunity both for you to have a hands-on experience of what it's like to be a member in a network that's using a social system map. Just how do you keep your, get your information into the map from the user perspective and access the map. And we would love to have you be part of our network, even if that means on the periphery, just being somebody that we know is there and we can call on when we have a very specific need that we think you might benefit from helping us with. So even if you're not super active in the community, it's great to have you visible to the community. So that's an invitation to join our social system map, which Kara put a link to, and it also is a great, just if you are working with social system mapping, we are sort of, you know, exemplifying and modeling the methodology as it emerges, so that you can, if you're on the map, you'll kind of see how we're grappling with certain challenges that we've discovered, or, you know, that as they come up and how we work through them. And then you can, you know, be part of the conversation of how to, you know, how to improve that methodology, or you can see if it worked or not, and if you want to try it in your networks, etc. So that's that. I'm just going to share my screen again for just a moment, and then we'll jump in to the topic. So this is, so for our community practice sessions, for those of you who are new to the context, we do something just about every Monday, the first Monday, or no, just about every Monday of the month, first three. So the first Monday of the month is a sense making session where we learn some of the more theoretical, complex adaptive systems concepts that are very helpful in doing sense making with our mapping. So this is a place to sort of get some more theory, some more cognitive insight into social system mapping and how you could use it, as well as just that insight into developing your own change networks, even if you're not using a map. So those are great for that. And also just for meeting other people who are thinking about all of these things with us. Second Monday is always an on-ramp session. On-ramp session is just someone in our community who has a social system map at some stage of development, sharing their map, sharing the context for why they made the map, walking us through the map. So on-ramps, so the second Mondays, the on-ramp sessions are great for if you're still sort of wrapping your, if you've never seen a social system map, that's a great place to start. And if you're just, you know, wanting to see the work of the other members in our community and just get introduced to one in a specific context. And then the third Monday, which is, yes, that's this Monday, we usually have a deep dive conversation, which is where we dig into something related to social system mapping. You know, we have this sense making, which is a very conceptual, and then we have the on-ramp, which is a very intro level. And then there's usually some kind of topic that's kind of bubbling up in the community that takes a little more focus and a little more awareness of social system mapping. And you do that on the third Mondays. So that's our what we're up to at a very high level, or at least in terms of the sessions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just tell you there's a lot more than that. So those are our Monday sessions, but we have a Slack channel. We have a number of other ways of engaging, which Kara will be putting links to in the chat, and that she'll also tell you more about in a follow-up email. So just know this is one way to engage. There's more ways, and we invite you to take whatever path is most useful for you. We also have a great library of recordings of previous sessions. So there's a lot, like if you're looking for an on-ramp, you can go through the library and find great past on-ramps of people sharing maps. Okay, so I'm going to just stop sharing. Welcome, Rick. Would you like to do a quick mic check?
Hello. I'll do my voice check first. So,
okay.
Hi, everyone.
Thank
I'm
you.
Rick Livingston. I'm at State University and work in.
You work in where? You got cut off.
Yeah. So I work with food studies and the Ohio Food Policy Network.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Okay, so for today's session, really, well, I never know who's going to show up. Sometimes we have all people who've been doing this forever show up, and so I aim at a sort of an entry level topic, and everybody's already like, I don't even want to talk about that. I know all that stuff. And sometimes I aim at a sort of assuming there's some basic fundamentals there. And like today, I see a lot of new faces or really infrequent faces. So I'm sort of just adjusting my thinking to how to aim appropriately for you all. But what prompted today's, so Aurora, you're working, I'm looking at the Slack now because I should just do that before I jump in. So I see some, I know. So it looks like Aurora is developing a map, and Mary has had a map in her community that she generated, she sort of catalyzed a long time ago. Does anyone else actually have any social system mapping experience with sumApp and Kumu together? Those two tools. Okay.
We use both a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I thought you had. Okay. So the thing that brought this up was so two things sort of converged. One is I'm working with a relatively big client who is a global client, and we have just launched their map, and they have a plan for having regional coordinators to actually weave the network, to work with the map, to do sense making with the map. It's great. It's very exciting because I've rarely had a client that had, resources devoted to ongoing interaction with the map, as opposed to usually there's resources to make the map and then nobody really stewards it and not much really happens, etc. So we've been grappling with what should be really happening once it's up and running. But even if we come up with some methodologies and some what should be happening, there's still the challenge of not having, networks not having resources or the, just the bandwidth to continue with to actually do those things. So in this context, it's really exciting because we have already there's like 8 staff who are doing various things in the network, and very invested in the map, helped design the survey, etc. And then they're hiring for new coordinators for the global regions to coordinate the network using the map. So the map is, like core to their job description. So in that context, I'm being forced to, for the first time, develop a training program for training the staff of the network and the network coordinators to be able to feel comfortable. I'm going to pause here. Welcome, Mila. Hi. If you would like to unmute for just a moment and see if your mic works and say hi, we would welcome that.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for being late. I was stuck in another meeting. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome. Glad you're with us. So first of all, I'm just in the process of creating this training for navigation. And second of all, I have just recently noticed that I have gotten questions from a number of people who've been in our community for quite a while, who have maps and, have catalyzed maps in their communities. And they're asking me things like, Christine, is this possible in a map? Or Christine, how would you do that in a map? And I'm like, this is really basic stuff. Like, this is the simplest, most basic. And I would have thought, this is not a criticism or judgment. It's just like sort of astounding to me that we have these maps. People put money and time into making these maps, and they don't know how to navigate them. And so I realized, well, of course they don't. They don't know what's possible. They don't know what's there. And so we need to get better at helping networks learn how to navigate a map. So I thought both those things were up at the moment, and I didn't have a plan for today's topic, so I just threw it out there. And I was sort of thinking we would have more like mid-range experienced people, but this is great. So for those of you, so I'm going to share. Okay, and GreenNet. I forgot your person name.
Yannick.
Yannick. Okay. So it's great that you've worked with Kumu. So that might give you some, sort of navigation insights that one wouldn't have. And so I'm going to quickly, I think, well, I'm just going to, Kara, could you put a link to I'm going to just share this mural board that I made for starters. I know it's a little bit tricky. And Carol, let's have you put the embed link for the map, our map. So Kara's putting a link. Well, the mural board can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So this is the board that I created, my client for this global system that I'm referring to, and I, just had a sort of a really quick brainstorming of how should we do this training. And one of the things we realized was because there's a handful of people who will be in part of this training, and some of them have, for instance, one of them made this video, which I'll share with you in a moment. So she's got some basics down, right? She has enough basics down to have made a video to help people navigate the map. So it's like, how do we figure out how to not bore the people who know the basics to death, like just walk them through what they already know, but also dig a little deeper and uncover the things that they don't know, because everybody learns how to. I think I'm just going to jump into this. So they had made so it's the NORAG network. If you're curious, they're based in Geneva. And so they started with, and I think I'll just quickly, hang on, I'm going to go back to the beginning. So they made this as part of the rollout for the network. And it's like 3.5 minutes. It's got a tiny, a few seconds of why we would use this. And I'm going to pause for a second. The reason I'm sharing this is as an example. I know in lots of networks, we've evolved to the point where people will make a video that sort of is attempting to train people how to navigate a map so that their network can use the map. I have made tons of these videos myself. I'm just sharing this one because it's the one related to this board I just made that I'm trying to figure out how to do some training with. But it's a good start. It's an important, necessary, absolutely crucial good start. But it doesn't take us far enough, obviously, because I keep getting these kinds of questions. So here they're just sort of making the case. So this is just one example. There's other ways of doing this. Here they're walking us through sumApp. So for those of you who aren't familiar with sumApp, this is the sumApp interface. It's totally customizable. In this instance, all these questions are related to the NORAG networks. What they need to see, they could be very different questions. If you look at our social system map, you'll see they're very different questions. And I'm not going to go through, so one of the things they did that I thought was nice was they put in some text about like a header, and then they showed the the interface. So this is where she's just showing the connections panel and how you work in the connections panel in sumApp, and this is for gathering the relationship information that goes into a social system map. And Kara, you can put the link to this video also into the chat so that people can access this video themselves. And jump past here now, and I'm going to go to okay. So now here's Kumu. This is a social system map. This is the NORAG social system map, and she's sort of walking us quickly visually through ways of using filters, seeing how the side panel works, how the data gathered in sumApp shows up in the side panel. This is an initiative of theirs. The South also knows. So we have a view focused on that initiative. There's the people who are part of that initiative, and then the working relationships that we've gathered so far. So what she's doing here is she's basically quickly giving us some navigation tips. She clicked on the links, and you can see information about the links. She clicked on, I'm going to back up and just point that out again. So she's clicked on at various times people. And when you click on a person, the data they shared about themselves shows up in the side panel. She's also here. You can see it's a little bit darker. She clicked on this link from Moira to Arushi, and we can see this is Moira to Arushi's relationship from Moira's perspective. Arushi has her own version, her own take on that relationship, which is going to be under this line. But this is Moira saying how they're connected, what kinds of activities they've shared, how much she's influenced by Arushi's work, and something she admires or appreciates about Arushi. So this is about their relationship from Moira's point of view. All of these questions are specific to the NORAG network. We developed these questions together with a number of the, Arushi was one, Moira's my main contact. But so there was a team that helped develop the questions for the people as well as the questions for the connections. And so what this video now is just showing. So there was Moira to Arushi, then there's Arushi to Moira, and then there's sub-networks of this network, which we're going to look at right now. She's also just, in this video, she's not spelling it out, but she's also showing how we've developed the side panel in Kumu to be the links to different views. So each view is representing the data in a different way so that you can dig into it and slice and dice it in a way that is meaningful for the story you're trying to tell. And each view then we link to in the side panel so you can see, you can kind of go through the views going down the side panel. So that's not spelled out here, but that's what she's doing. So she's kind of introducing us to that as well. So these are the various sub-networks. And she's pointing out how to use her mouse, right click on her mouse, how to select things, etc. So this video is showing these things. And so I just wanted to share that with you. That's part of our, part of what we're doing here in this map is saying, okay, let's have you go back and review the video and play with the map a little bit based on what you saw in the video. But it's not enough. And there's always a tension in the videos of how much to do. That was a really fast. I mean, to me, like the first time I watched that, I was getting bored. I was like, it's taking so long. Oh my God. But that's because I'm so, I look at these things all day long and I know what, like you see, I see one word and I'm like, okay, I got it. Yeah. But I was just doing this thinking about you guys watching it. And I was like, oh, that's really fast. How would anybody like learn anything from that? Like, it's just like a teaser. It's not really a learning. So anyway, so they did that. And Moira said, well, we should do a board again, because I had done a mural board with the survey. And I was like, oh yeah, duh, that's a good idea. And then, have some space for what questions do they have. And then, so what we did was we decided to have them do a little homework ahead of time. So we haven't launched this yet because we haven't got the meeting date set yet. But what we're doing is we're just going to, ask them to watch the video, give them a link to, give them a link to their map. In this instance, it's our map, but because I somewhat adopted this for us instead of for Moira, but same basic layout. So I'll link to the map and then watch the video and then just go through. So I put some in the yellow Post-its. I put some questions that represent the kind of understanding of navigating that I've been hearing questions about lately, or that I think most people don't get exposed to. And so I wanted to share this, and I kind of was debating, should I like invite you guys to actually go through the yellow Post-its, and maybe you could do something like put a help me sticker or a, like I need to know more about this, and then we could walk through them, or I could pause and say, do you have feedback on the board? Or I could just jump in. Just my initial thought had been to just jump into our map and sort of just walk through the views and talk about the pieces of a view that I think are generally overlooked or scare people. So I have a possible 3 approaches. And I'm wondering what feels like any of you would like to do. So that one approach is go through the board and identify tips and tricks you would actually like help with. Another one, okay, Amy Does anybody feel differently from Amy? Strongly want to do a different thing? Okay, let's do that. Let's give you, how many minutes do you think you need to look at the questions on the board? Is 5 enough? Do you think you want 10?
Do you want us to go ahead and put a little mark if it's a question that we want to engage more?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking, yeah, yeah. So if you look at the Post-its and you know the answer, then we can ignore it. I mean, if you don't need it, someone else might. So someone else could put like yeah, I need help with that, or an emoji of some sort. But so if you know the answer, just don't do anything. But if you would like us to actually go dig into that in the map, put some kind of mark for that. And we'll do that. So how about if we start with 5 and see if you're good in 5 or if we need to add time. Okay, I'm going to set my desk down while you're doing that. So I'm going to go on mute and and I'm going to stop sharing. Is everybody able to access the board? Is anybody stuck on that?
I don't think we have the link, do we?
Yeah, it's in the,
Oh,
okay, Kara, can you put the link in again? I'm assuming you are. I can't see you at the moment. I'm going to stop sharing. There, okay. Okay. Has everybody got the link now? You good? I'm muting and sitting. Rick, I'll address your question about boards when we're done, when everyone's had a moment. So I think we're close to 5 minutes, but it looks like, I can't tell if people are still needing more time. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in and just keep, if you want to keep putting whatever icons you're putting, to let us know to look at them. Another thing I did, and I'll go into those questions in a moment, but was, well, I'll back up and answer Rick's. So Rick put into the, a question into the chat about what board, and I think that, what I was referring to, Rick, and if this doesn't sound like the answer, you can clarify, but so what I've begun doing with clients is starting the whole design process from the beginning, before we set up sumApp, before we get, before we do anything technical, is to start to have conversations with the community, starting with, the vision of the community, and then what would that look like for us to be a community that's moving towards that vision. And then once we've got some, and I do this in a mural board, like a collaborative mural board, put the questions in there. We have people put Post-its and cluster. And then once we sort of got clear on what would that actually look like in action for this, in this particular context, then we do another mural board where we say, okay, in order to get to that point where it looks like we're doing those things, what would we need to know about each other? And what would we need to know about the exchanges that are happening in the network? So if, if writing academic reports together is, if we want more of that to be happening, then that's a question of, are you writing academic reports together or not? Or so if it's, we want certain members of the network to be funding other members of the network more, then that would be a question. What kind of, are you funding each other, or whatever it is we would need to see about the exchanges or the flows or the interactions in the network, as well as the individual network members themselves. That we do on a mural board as well, to sort of refine to sort of get at what are the dimensions we might want in the survey. And then we go through a process of refining that and turning those into 2 surveys, one for the connections and one for the people. So when I referred to the board, I was probably, Rick, just referring to that process, and there's lots of them, but there's a specific one. Is that help?
Yeah, I'm in the deep ocean here, so carry on.
Okay. Well, and I just want to invite you to just be, I say this to everybody, this is complex stuff. We're trying to represent complex systems. Humans are complex beings. If we're actually trying to transform something, we're going to have to deal with lots of different kinds of complex beings. So there's a lot of dimensionality, and then we're not just being those things, but we're representing those things, and then we're sense making with those things. So there's a lot going on. So it's complicated. It's complex. It can be quite overwhelming, and but just invite you to recognize that that's part of the process. That's part of one of the things we are all working to get used to and comfortable with. And so just feel free to admit it when we're together. So just feel free to say, I'm totally lost. I don't understand what you're saying. That's part of the, just being okay with that is part of what helps us all get better at it. The other thing, so that was responding to Rick. Another thing I just wanted to say, and then I'll go into these topics, is as I was making this board about checking their understanding and what questions do the team have for our training, I realized that this is the place, what I've seen already is when we're doing this brainstorming together, this is the place where stuff comes up. And so, so people don't tend to just focus on the question that I want them to focus on. Damn it, they go all over the place. And so I was like, well, we might as well capture those things, because then we're just adding to the richness, and we're getting more directionality. So I added those little panels on the side of success stories. It's important to always be gathering success stories because those then become part of the ongoing storytelling process of helping people understand how a map can be used, helping them be, inspired to enter into the map. Questions about one of the little purple one on the, say, 3 o'clock on the board about the data we're already gathering. This is trying to get at, we gather a lot of data. We make views that focus on certain aspects of the data, but we can't possibly make views that do everything. So we make the map interactive, but sometimes people need another view. Sometimes we haven't thought of a view yet, and somebody else will say, well, I want to see, the South Also Knows initiative by their relationship to some other thing. In which case, if they said that, I'd be able to say, oh, I think we can make a view that will do that. The green one at sort of like 4 o'clock is the little square one to the right is, are there questions? As we engage with a map over and over again, we start to realize things that are missing. Like I was just playing with my husband, business partner yesterday with looking at our community practice map. And I went, oh, every question in our survey is very specific to our community. It's like hyper specific to our community. And we ask very little whole person questions in our social system app, which I did not know. I mean, I hadn't really noticed that until this weekend. So that green one is, are there gaps in our map that we could iterate with? And then questions that they have on the left, and then how inspiring people to talk about and think about how they or how others in the network can use the information in the map is like that comes up when we're having these conversations. It's also something that you want to capture, because if we're not capturing it now, it's just going to slip through the cracks and we'll all forget about it, and we won't share it with the community and help them navigate more. So those, I just wanted to share that with you. And then before, and I will jump into the topics, but I just want to ask if any of you who have done this or who are just even, seeing it for the first time, have any feedback for me or any suggestions about how to make this better. Oops. Just thoughts about what I've got set up so far. Because you're all experts in something that I'm not. And training people to do things in groups is something I'm really terrible at and work on all the time. I'm much better with people saying question and I go, yeah, cool, answer, question, like one-on-one, figuring out where they need to go, what path they need to follow. I'm great, but groups, I'm terrible.
This is helpful or off topic, but one of the things that's occurring to me is, as a user of a map, if my job is to do like network weaving, like what is it I need to be able to do that job? I think I'm imagining one of the clients I'm working with, and I think I would just need to tell them, here are the 5 things you're going to need to do your job. So I wonder if there's a way to approach it based, which sounds fantastic, that this client you have is hiring people to do that sort of thing, and the map's part of their job. And I wonder, that's just kind of where my brain is coming at it, through their job function.
Yeah. And what, so this is a tension that, I've lived with for years now is, yes, people want to know, what is it I need to do my job? And it needs to be quick and simple. It can be something they can absorb right now, but that is a very deep question. And what I experience is that people kind of can scratch the surface, but without more practice with the map and more, not only practice with the map, but really depth of understanding complex adaptive systems and what it is how we can make this whole stronger and more resilient or more adaptive. Like all of that cognitive learning is part of it. And so I've just been encouraging clients to consider this a long-term project and recognize that they'll get the most out of it if they put more into it. I mean, have some kind of resources or some kind of peel away, some kind of ongoing sense making with it, capacity building with it, etc. And so I've succeeded in convincing my most recent handful of clients to approach it that way. And we've been putting more time and energy into really thinking deeply and engaging with the community deeply, as opposed to, originally we were much more just like, we'll build you a map and, you figure out what to do with it. Or, like our job is to build the map. And I would say that our job of building the map is, oops. Where is that coming from? Can you guys?
Welcome to the Kicks EAP podcast.
Okay, that was a NORAG network webinar that came right after that video that I shared. It's like it just automatically loaded. Sorry about that. Yeah, so like the map building, size of our work is staying the same, but the sense making and engagement part is growing. So it's becoming a smaller proportion to the whole. And I feel like that's hard to convince people to do, but as it's getting easier for me. I mean, I just basically say, nah, I don't really want to do it. If you don't want to go, like, if you don't want to go deep, I'm not going there with you. You can hire somebody else. Everybody's, there's lots of people in our community who are happy to just plop a map together for you. So go for it. I can do that because because of my experience, but I do. So that's my answer to that. So, is just to encourage them to do that and just and be really clear that we can get you, you can get value and you can get, and you can get, even at the superficial level, what I call the superficial level, which is very judgmental of me because I really am wanting to push deep. There's a lot of value and you can get there and you can do that fairly quick. Here's the 5 things you need to know, which is what is generally being trained to people. But okay, I'm going on just to convince them that at some point that there's a future and that they should be considering that. Now, I don't tell them you have to know how much you're going to spend, like I just say, keep this in mind. This should be an ongoing thing and we're going to readdress it, once we've got this going. So I don't know. But so the things that, the things that need to be trained are, I'm just going to say these quickly, knowing that the side panel has links that will take you to different views, like people understanding that there are different views, there's different ways of looking at this data, that like teaching them how to use the filters just in combination, teaching them how to use the zoom fit so that the data, sits on, how Kumu tends to bounce around kind of wildly, so that they know how to get the data back into the center of the canvas, understanding what goes in, like what you're clicking on shows up in the side panel, whether it's a node, whether it's a connection, being able to search in the search bar for names and for content. Those are the biggest things. I want to look at the board now and see where connection. Okay, so time tags. Networks. Okay. Okay, I have, this is good. These are the things that I'm going to share my screen again. Is anybody having, just please, if I'm like totally going in the wrong direction, just please put it in the chat and I will catch up and try to correct. Okay, so wait, let me go back here. So there was a couple things that were, okay. So again, can everybody see my screen? Okay. So, and just in terms of when at the beginning, like if you're just helping, with weaving, pointing out that we tend to make our views going from simple, relatively visually unthreatening to more complex. Thank you, Mila. Yeah, okay, we're glad you could make it. Okay, and then so directory view, just simple who's here, how to filter on who's here. Offers and asks is usually something that comes up in most network contexts. So just knowing that it's there and knowing, you know, so if we pick a skill set that some people might want to offer and some people might want help with. And this one, everybody has a skill set in it and nobody's looking for help with that. So that wasn't very, just being able to do that. Now I'm just trying to get to the actual questions. So if you were wanting to, so a thing, and another thing that's really useful is to just be aware of is to look for these little, see there's this little teeny tiny dot, which is just kind of what we have to work with. But if you hover over a dot, it will tell you, see it'll pop up some text. And what these are is partial views, so that if we, so for instance, in this partial view, if we click on this dot, now it's gray. Now, if we hover over a person, we can get a pop-up that shows some of their data so that you don't have to actually click on every node. You can just pop stuff up and see information about the person. I think it has their, oh, we didn't put their picture in it, but this pop-up is totally custom designed. So Tim designs this. I tell him what to buy, say, put these fields in there, make a pop-up. And the reason, I'll get to that, Yannick, in a second. The reason that we make it we make it this little toggle is because if you notice, like if I'm clicking on Mary, and I wanted to actually be hovering over, and I'm not clicking, I'm just hovering, and I want to see who Mary has first degree connections to, because as you see in Kumu, if you hover over somebody, it will highlight their first degree connections and it will gray out everything else. So you can start to see that person's network and how that person fits within the broader network. But the pop-up's up, so I can't see anybody underneath the pop-up. So that's annoying to me because I usually want to see the structure and not that individual information. But so I prefer to look at it like this. But when I'm looking at it like that, then I have to click open so it's like, this is a really small difference in the view. And rather than make a totally separate view and make somebody have to click from this view to that view just to see the difference of that pop-up, we put this little toggle and we make it doable like that. So a thing to note is if you're seeing pop-ups, that's a place to sort of get curious and say, well, what's with this pop-up? And they can be anything. So here, this is a pop-up on connections. So every single connection now that's been turned green means it's got something in the connection question that says why they connect. So it's a narrative about the relationship. And so you can turn that off or on, that particular one. You can turn off if these people contribute meaningfully to one another. No, it's not working. Shoot. I have to have a conversation with my partner. But you can hover over each little dot, see what it, we describe what it does. And so one of the things that we can do is, no, it's not going to do it here. Shoot. I have to tell Tim to fix this. Is I can make it so that we usually have a little pop-up down here that's covered in the embed. It's covered over by this Kumu icon, which is annoying, or logo, but it will remove everybody who's not connected. So if I go to, so this is the answer of one question. If I say, show me everybody who's collaborating. So now we've filtered out the acquaintances and the generative interactions, and we're just looking at collaborators. We could click on that little thing, and I will get this moved so we can do that very soon. We would remove everybody who's not collaborating. So then we could see how many people in the network are collaborating. We could, without the visual clutter. So these are just little tricks that we do, the little, those little things. So that's another thing to just tell people is if you see one of those, hover over to see what it does and then play with it. So that's how you would answer this question of what would you do if you just want to see who's collaborating with whom and don't want everybody else to clutter up the view. How many people in, oh, we're almost to the top of the hour. Sorry. I'll just say once, I'll just answer this question and then we'll do our goodbye ritual, and feel free to hang out if you want. So we have this time tag view in sumApp. We gather the relational data, the first question, like the strength of connection data, and when members, we can view. So this is a view of the, we use the time tag function. This is the network in 2019. Look, pretty small. And then this is the network in 2020. And we have, under here, we have the elements count, the connections count, the density, so we can see, you know, is this getting, as we're adding more people, is it getting more or less dense? Here's 2021, and then here's 2022. So we can see that, we can see the metrics and see what's changing. I feel like there's more we could have done. I'm sorry about that. But every single session is sort of like there's some we can do and some we can't do. I hope something about this was helpful. And we're gonna, so our goodbye ritual, our end of is just to everybody unmute. I will count down 3, 2, 1. We will give each other our blessings and our good energy to go on with the day. And then if you want to stick around and ask deeper questions, and I will pause more and listen more, just don't jump off when we're done with our goodbye greetings. So if you're going to do this, I invite you to unmute yourself. We'll just all do it together at once. So 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
Appreciate your work. Take care. Loved everyone.